Now, coming to hymen examination. Can you tell me which is the most common type of hymen? This is the most common type of hymen. This is the most common type of hymen where the opening is placed anteriorly. Opening is placed anteriorly, but hymen is placed posteriorly. Hymen is placed posteriorly, and the shape of the hymen is crescent shape. You can see it is a crescent shaped hymen. So, this is the most common type of hymen. This is the most common type of hymen. This is the most common type of hymen, also called semilunar hymen or crescentic hymen. So, semilunar or crescentic hymen is the most common type of hymen. Let us discuss other types of hymen. This is annular hymen where the opening is placed centrally. Opening is placed centrally, that is annular hymen. Then two lateral openings. This is septate hymen. Here two openings are present laterally. Two openings side by side. This is called septate hymen. Number 4, if you can see here, number 4, multiple small openings. This is cribriform hymen. Okay, cribriform hymen. Now, number 5, if you can see here, very small opening. This is called microperforate hymen. Then imperforate hymen, no opening at all. This is called imperforate hymen. Now, again an interesting picture, number 7. First of all, tell me these notches that you can see, these are the notches that you can see. These are the natural notches or these are tears? The question is simple. These are the natural notches or these are the tears? How do you differentiate? Okay, I will make one more diagram and then you tell me. Can you appreciate the difference between the photograph 1 and photograph 2? In photograph 1, the notches are not reaching periphery. The notches are not reaching periphery. Whereas in number 2, here you can see it is reaching periphery. See, if there is tear, try to understand the concept. More concept you understand, less you will have to rectify. If there are tears, hymen is very small. If there is a mechanical force, usually the whole hymen till periphery will be ruptured. Okay, so tears reach periphery. So this is a tear. Tears reach till periphery, whereas these are the natural notches. They don't reach periphery. And this particular hymen, which has multiple natural notches and which can be confused with tears, this kind of hymen is also called denticular hymen. This is called denticular hymen or fimbriate hymen. Fimbriate hymen. Clear? This is called denticular hymen. This is denticular hymen or fimbriate hymen. Now, when does the hymen actually get torn? Hymen basically gets torn at two times mostly. One is during the first sexual intercourse. So, the hymen basically gets torn at two times. Tear of hymen, if I talk about tear of hymen, usually speaking, one is at the time of first sex. Okay, once the hymen gets torn at the time of first sex, in subsequent sexual intercourses, much injury does not occur. Then, secondly, it gets torn at the time of childbirth. Now, during first sexual intercourse, at which place the hymen gets torn? During the first sexual intercourse, if you remember the diagram which I drew, the hymen gets torn at 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock position, between 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock position, also called posterolateral position. Posterolateral position. And during the childbirth, the hymen is almost completely destroyed. During the childbirth, the hymen is completely destroyed. Okay, only the certain remnants remain. Only the certain remnants remain. This is called almost completely destroyed. This is called carunculae myrtiformis. Carunculae myrtiformis. The hymen which gets completely destroyed during the childbirth is called carunculae myrtiformis. Carunculae myrtiformis. Okay. So, just a very small revision. Most common type of hymen, semilunar or crescentic. Central opening, annual hymen. Which hymen resembles tears? Fimbriate hymen or denticular hymen. Position of hymen at the time of first sexual intercourse, 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock position, that is posterolateral. Childbirth completely destroyed, carunculae myrtiformis. Hymen in virgin versus non-virgin. So, here I will write virgin, hymen, and then non-virgin. Virgin is a girl who never had sex. Non-virgin is a girl who had sexual intercourse. Now, tell me one thing. Usually speaking, hymen will be, will be intact or ruptured in virgin. Usually speaking, obviously the hymen will be intact in virgin and ruptured in non-virgin. But there are certain exceptions. What are the exceptions? Exceptions means the girl is virgin, she never had sex, but still the hymen is ruptured due to some other reason. And the second is the girl is non-virgin, she had sexual intercourse, but still the hymen is intact. These are exceptions. So, can you tell me which one do you call false virgin? Suppose I give them the number A, B, C and D. Which one is a false virgin? The name is explanatory, false virgin, which is looking like virgin but who is actually not virgin. So, this is false virgin. This is false virgin. When the girl had sexual intercourse, but still the hymen is intact. Now, first of all, let us discuss the conditions in which hymen can be ruptured by conditions other than sex. Can you think of some conditions where hymen can be ruptured by conditions other than sex? It's a straightforward common sense thing. For example, fall on a projecting object. The number 2, masturbation by long objects. Masturbation by long objects. Then certain gynecological operations. Then certain diseases, certain infections. Example, diphtheria. Diphtheria can cause ulceration and perforation of hymen. Then one more thing, aptevirus. What is aptevirus? Let me explain. A inflammatory stone called solapith is deliberately inserted into the vagina of young girls. It causes inflammation and rupture of hymen. This is called aptevirus. Solapith is a kind of stone which is deliberately inserted into the vagina of young girls so that there is inflammation and rupture of hymen. It is deliberately done to make young girls fit for prostitution. It is deliberately done to make young girls fit for prostitution. Tell me one thing, can hymen be also ruptured by jumping, riding, bicycling, usual sports? Yes or no? No. Otherwise, the girls will be fearful of playing itself? No. Please remember, in usual circumstances, hymen does not usually ruptures. Hymen does not usually ruptures by swimming, horse riding, cycling, etc. Hymen does not usually ruptures by swimming, horse riding or cycling, etc. Now, coming to the false virgin. What are the conditions in which even the girl had sexual intercourse, still the hymen is intact? Again, common sense. Why? In which condition? When the opening is too large, then also the hymen will not get ruptured, or the hymen is very elastic, hymen is very fleshy and thick, or the hymen is situated deep inside. Hymen is situated deep inside. Hymen is situated deep inside. Okay, so that even if penetration is there, the hymen is not able to get ruptured. So, these are the conditions in which false virgin can occur. Now, what is this rod? This is a glass rod, this is a special rod. What is the name of this rod? This is glacier keen rod. Glacier keen rod. It is a glass rod. It is a glass rod having a source of light here. Source of light like bulb. It is, what is the use of this rod? This rod is used to examine hymen. Used to examine hymen. This rod is inserted into the vagina and brought close to the hymen. Okay, this rod is inserted into the vagina and brought close to the hymen, and it can be easily seen the kind of injuries, whether recent injury, old injury, all those things can easily be seen. Glacier keen rod. Okay, again a very interesting and conceptual question, clinical question I will say. In case of a rape of a female child, hymen does not rupture because opening is too small to allow penis to enter. Hymen does not rupture because hymen is situated deep inside. Both A and C or the hymen commonly ruptures. First of all, simple question. In case of a female child, usually the hymen ruptures or not. See, when I say, please you have to think about the common scenarios. Rare scenario, anything can happen. Usually the hymen in a child does not rupture. Why? Both A and C. Both A and C. First of all, the opening is too small to allow penis to enter. Secondly, the hymen is situated deep inside. As the age of the girl increases, the hymen moves forwards. So, because of these two reasons, it can please be very careful if you are examining a female child, that even if the hymen is intact, she can still be a victim of rape. In a female child, the hymen usually does not rupture in case of a child. So, this is a usual scenario. In rare scenarios, obviously anything can happen. Suppose the person is very brutal, he applies lot of force, then hymen can certainly get ruptured, severe perineal injuries can also occur, but those occur in rare circumstances. So, here the key word was child. Now, pubic hair collection obviously is done in rape victim to match with the accused. So, there can be three kind of hairs: loose hair, matted hair and intact hair. How do you collect them? The loose hair are collected by combing. The matted hair are collected by cutting. Matting means which are adhering to each other because of various seminal fluid or other vaginal secretions. They are adhering to each other, so they have to be cut. Intact hair will obviously always belong to victim only. They serve as a control. How do you collect them? They are collected by plucking. They are collected by plucking so that it comes out with the hair root. It comes out along with the hair root. So, this is how three different kind of pubic hair are collected in a rape victim. Okay. If you can see in this photograph, in number 1, there was an injury, genital injury, but it was not very much visible. We added a dye which made the injury very much visible in the figure number 2. Can you tell me which dye could have been used to make the injuries more easily visible? Tell me. The dye which is used for this purpose is toluidine dye. toluidine dye. Toluidine dye is used to examine recent micro injuries seen on genitalia. Recent micro injuries seen on genitalia. What do we do is, suppose the injury is not very clearly visible and the doctor is doubtful whether it is actually an injury or not. So, what he does is, he puts up a toluidine dye over the skin, over the genital area. Then he washes away with the normal saline or something else. So, what will happen is, the dye will get washed away from the skin, but it will remain inside the injured tissues. So, it will remain inside the injured tissues and they can be a stark contrast and injuries will be easily seen. Obviously, it will be used only in recent injuries, because in the older ones the injuries would have been healed, then the injury will not take up the dye. Another thing, you must have heard about finger test, especially what is finger test? Finger test is, the fingers are inserted into the rape victim, into the female, and the usual inference which is done, it is done in the cases of, it was done in the cases of sexual assault. Fingers were inserted by doctor in the vagina of rape victim. What was the importance? The importance was, if one finger goes inside, that means the girl is not habitual to sex. But if two fingers goes inside, that means the girl is habitual to sex. That was the finger test. This finger test has now been abolished. Why? Because this is considered derogatory, this is considered disgraceful to girls' honor. And moreover, past sexual history has no relevance. Whether the girl past sexual history does not have much relevance. Past sexual history has no relevance whether the girl was raped or not. Character of a girl does not make any difference. Whether the girl was having multiple sexual, having a past sexual history or not, does not make any difference. Even a prostitute can be raped. Because of these reasons, this two-finger test has been abolished. Can you tell me the answer? Which of the following test is used to detect vaginal cells from accused in a case of rape? Let us discuss. Detection of vaginal epithelial cells. So, if the basic concept is simple, if we are able to detect vaginal epithelial cells from the male accused, that means he must have had sex with that girl. So, there are basically two dyes used to detect vaginal epithelial cells. One is Lugol's iodine and second is Papinaculo stain. These are the two dyes, we can say, which are used to detect vaginal epithelial cells. What do we do in Lugol's iodine test? Actually, what happens is, if a person has committed sexual intercourse, then his glans penis of the accused will have vaginal epithelial cells, and the vaginal epithelial cells contain glycogen. The vapors, what happens is, a tissue paper is applied on glans penis, and then the vapors of Lugol's iodine are applied to this tissue paper. If the person has committed sexual intercourse, then the vaginal epithelial cells containing glycogen will come on this tissue paper. These vapors of Lugol's iodine, they react with glycogen to give a brownish color. They will react with this glycogen to give a brownish color. This brownish color will indicate that vaginal epithelial cells were present, and this test is positive till 4th day of sexual intercourse. This test is positive till 4th day of sexual intercourse. Understood? So, please remember, toluidine dye to detect recent micro injuries, Lugol's iodine and pepinocolostane to detect vaginal epithelial cells from the accused. Now, again a very important actual clinical question, applied question from forensic medicine. This image is penis of a rape accused who was examined after 6 hours of alleged sexual intercourse. What it is? What is the opinion you are going to give? Consistent with sexual intercourse within 24 hours, not consistent with sexual intercourse within 24 hours, consistent with sodomy, or consistent with oral sex? Tell me, what is the answer? I will give you a hint. What is this? What is this whitish secretion that you can see over here? Let us discuss this. What is smegma? Smegma is a whitish secretion formed by glands of glans penis, and it takes about 24 hours to develop. It takes about 24 hours to develop. Now, if smegma is present, what does it indicate? If smegma is present on glans penis, what does it indicate? And if smegma is absent on glans penis, what does it indicate? If smegma is present on glans penis, that means no sexual activity in past 24 hours. If smegma is present, that means there have been no sexual activity in past 24 hours. If it is absent on glans penis, what does that indicate? What does that indicate? It indicates either there has been sexual activity in past 24 hours or cleaning of private parts have been done in past 24 hours. Either of these two. Okay. So, basically, now if you come again back to the question, so smegma is present, that means no recent sex. So, answer here will be not consistent with sexual intercourse within the past 24 hours. So, minute examinations can give you a lot of information. Next question. Potency test of a rape accused was done. His external genitalia was clinically normal. What is the right way to give opinion? The person is potent, person is capable of performing sexual intercourse, person is not impotent. There is nothing to suggest that the accused is not capable of performing sexual intercourse. All these choices, they may look very much confusing and similar, but there is very fine difference between these choices. Think what is the right answer. Okay, let us discuss the concept first. First of all, if we talk about potency test as such, can an impotent person commit rape? For commission of rape, if you look at the definition of rape, insertion of any object, any body part into mouth, vagina, urethra, anus, that is considered rape. So, as such, even an impotent person can commit rape. So, potency test is not of much use, but still it is done on all cases of rape accused. Okay, it basically gives you an additional information. Okay, it basically gives it gives you it basically serves as a corroborative evidence. That means it gives you little bit information. Now, what is the most common cause of male impotency? The most common cause of male impotency is psychogenic, which you cannot tell by routine physical examination of external genitalia. So, the potency test in most of the cases, potency test can only be useful to know if some gross genital abnormality is present. If some gross genital abnormality is present, like the penis is deformed or something like that, that information you can get, but you cannot tell with, it cannot confirm, but in most of the cases it cannot confirm. In most cases it cannot confirm potency. In most cases it cannot confirm potency or impotency. So, the only thing is you can simply see if there is any gross congenital abnormality, Is there anything to suggest that the person is capable of performing sexual intercourse or not? That is the main thing you can tell. So, this is the main thing that you can tell. This is the official way of giving the opinion. Double negative, please remember that there is nothing to suggest that the accused is not capable of performing sexual intercourse.